contractor wasn't very interested in putting the stress cracks in them. So consequently, virtually every one of the driveways in all 90 homes have all sorts of cracks. Some of them are just cracks, some of them are upheaval from roots, some of them have been already changed. But in any case, we've had a lot of people in the community come to us and ask some questions about repairing the driveways or replacing the driveways. We've had a number of them repaired and or replaced during the last couple of years. Some contractors did a not so good job. Some contractors did a very, very good job. So we thought it might be something new, which we haven't ever tried before, to try and get a contractor together that we know has done a good job, has done work for us in the community, and make a presentation to you in the hopes that maybe we can put up some possibilities for everybody in the community who might be interested to save some money and do a good thing for the community. Bill has been the one who came up with this original idea and has spearheaded this effort, and I'm going to turn it over to Bill now, and he's going to take it away.
Take it away, Bill.
Hi, everybody. A couple of months ago, Walters asked me to look into driveways. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? And so what we wanted to do is to see if we could interview maybe 8, 10 construction companies that specialize in driveways. So I went out and I met with and or talked to a variety of construction companies that have an expertise in driveways. So I asked a lot of questions. We narrowed it down to about 3 companies, and then Walter and I met with the owners of each company. And we asked a whole series of questions, background, the kind of work that they did, how long have they been in business, references, etc. So then we decided that there was one company that stood out, and that was a company called Coastline Construction. And we sat down with the owner, the principal of the company, his name is Leroy Reveille, and said, look, we think that there's a fair amount of interest in the community in either replacing their driveways and or repairing the driveways where that could be done. And I said, one of the issues is cost. If we were able to get, a fair amount of folks that would say, hey, I'm interested, what kind of a discount would you be able to offer those people? And Leroy is going to, talk about that also. He's also spoken to some folks at Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo, for people that are interested, would be willing to, do some financing if necessary. Leroy has also brought the manufacturer of the components that he's used in his driveways to share with us, what the difference is between a construction done by A versus him. Several people have contacted me and said, hey, Bill, I got a big tree and I'm concerned that if I do my driveway, and I think my driveway needs to be done, what's going to happen with my tree? And I think Leroy is going to talk about that, where he can do a quality job and save the tree. So bottom line is, I think we have an opportunity for those people that are interested to replace or repair your driveway at a significant savings. I want Leroy and his folks to get up and share with you a little bit about their company, their background. One of our members of the community, Ramon Carrion, has had his driveway done by Leroy. And we talked to Ramon. Ramon is thrilled with the quality of the work.
Here is Ramon.
And here is Ramon. So anyway, what I'd like to have is an interactive session tonight. I mean, the bulk of our meeting is about driveways. So if you've been thinking about having a driveway fixed, thinking about your driveway replaced, I mean, tonight's the night to discuss it. So we're also, since there's several people have called me and emailed me and said, hey, you know, I'm gonna be away, or I'm a snowbird, I can't be there. What we're gonna do is Dave Lansbury has been kind enough to agree to videotape this, so we're gonna put the video on the website so that people can go to the website and get the information. So anyway, that's kind of the background, and at this point I'd like to turn it over to Leroy, and welcome.
Thank you. So y'all have to forgive me, we do construction, I'm not much of a public speaker, but can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just a little background on the company. I'm Leroy Reblio, Coastline Construction Services. We're a few years old now, family owned and operated company. We really got into business because I've been in construction since I was about 8 years old, and we're tired of seeing people do it the way that we didn't think they should. To be honest with you, that's why we got into it. That's why we started. That's what we're trying to put together, is doing it our way, the way that we think it should be done. We specialize in custom concrete, decks, docks, and building custom homes. So we don't just do concrete driveways, we do a lot of them, but we do all sorts of concrete work. Today we have a couple people. Steve from Euclid Chemicals is here. He does all of our structural repairs, supplies all of our structural repair products and topping bond products, which we'll touch on in just a second. And I have Dwayne Flatt from Preferred Material. He provides the concrete when we do the tear outs and pours. If that's something you guys decide to do, then that's what it'll be. The concrete we use as a base is a 3,000 PSI blend mix with fiber. It's got big rock and small rock, unless we have to pump it in the backyard, and it's gonna be all small rock. A lot of older construction guys will still stick to using wire mesh, and about 80% of the ones that we pull out, all the wire mesh is at the bottom. That's why we use fiber. Even if a customer requests wire mesh, we still put fiber in it. To us, it's a better product. We don't charge any more for it. We don't charge any less for it. It's just something we're safe, doing. And one thing they touched on was control joints and expansion joints. Concrete's gonna move. I mean, if you go to the Skyway Bridge, I had a guy from a concrete products company, and I think it was Plant City, told me that the Skyway Bridge moves like 14 inches in a day. It transfers back and forth. So when you drive over that dun-dun, as you're going over the bridge, that's the flex that it has to have to be able to move. Now I didn't engineer it, but that's just what he told me, and he seemed smarter than I was. So, they did touch on trees. If you have, I'm sure some of you have tree roots growing up underneath your driveway, and there's a bunch of cracks. People, the one thing we guarantee about concrete is you can't steal it and you can't burn it. But there's cracking is an issue. Everybody asks, is it going to crack? Is it going to crack? Is it going to crack? Well, the idea of control joints is to crack where you want it to, not to just crack, all the way up the middle or just randomly. Put them in. It's going to crack, but you want it to crack where you tell it to more than anything. But if you have trees up underneath your driveway, you'll have a structural, and structural crack is a lift. Think about a credit card. If you can slide a credit card over top of it and it stops, that's structural. You have a problem. It's got lift in it, it's got movement, and it's going to continue to move and get worse over time. Surface cracks, like little stress cracks, if you can't fit a dime into it, it's just a surface crack. It's a wind-driven thing. And what it is a concrete is based on, it's got multiple components, and I'm sorry, but I don't know all of them, but it's got rock and it's got Portland, all right? And the cream at the top of the concrete that you see is broom, and you'll see, if you step up some of these, this is a new product, but that'll be your broom texture for you folks that walk by and look at it. That's just the cream, that's what we're doing. So some of those smaller cracks that you see in it, if it has that, and we're gonna come by and assess each driveway, if it has that, it's not structural. But if it is, you need to do something with it, because it's gonna keep getting worse. I think as far as us, and we're gonna do, one thing I do want to talk about is the price. We've done one we appreciate Ramon. He was nice enough to have us come out and do a driveway for him. He's gonna be mad in a second, but we are gonna do,
Give him a refund. Refund.
Well, we've decided if there's enough driveways and we have enough time to do it, it just makes sense. We're offering a discount of up to 25% on what our normal rate is. And that's just common sense. If we're coming in and we're doing 5, 10, or 15, it's a lot cheaper for us to do that than it is to just do one. So it is a savings of a little over 25% off our original cost, and we can go item by item with each person and go over that. One thing we're gonna ask is by whoever decides to use us, we hope you all do, but whoever decides to use us in any aspect, be it topping bond or a tear out, let us know by, I think it was June 14th is what we decided. That way it'll give us, because we don't have a start date of July 8th, and that will give us enough time to assess it and say, yeah, I can fix that, or, you know, I don't want you spending money you don't have to. If I can come out and put a top on it and it'll look okay, then that's fine, but I'm gonna be honest with you. If I think it's just gonna look, you know, horrible again, I'm not gonna have you spend money on it. It's just because you're gonna yell at me and then we won't get along anymore, so. Yes, ma'am.
So it is your intent to tell each of us whether you would recommend repair or replace?
Well, yes ma'am, yes and no. So I won't say that I will go to every driveway, but I will if they call me. If you call and you say, hey, I wanna have a topping bond done versus the tear out and replacement of a driveway, then I'll come and I'll assess the damage that's done to your driveway or the look of, and make sure that my product's actually gonna make a difference and that our application will. And once that we've assessed it, we'll let you know right away that day, and then we'll tell you if we can top it or if we can have to tear it out and replace it. Yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking at the picture behind you.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a solid driveway with some stress cracks in it.
Yeah, they look a little more severe, but yes, ma'am,
Okay,
go ahead.
not
Yes,
significant.
yes, ma'am.
They're not significant.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you still go in and cut expansion cracks and do
Well,
that? on
there's
an
a rule of
existing driveway?
thumb that we've always stuck with that says if you don't cut it in 24 hours, there ain't no point in cutting it. And the reason for, like, I can go into your driveway, if it looks like that, and I can chisel it out, I can put an epoxy in it, and the epoxy's gonna hold. Where that crack is going to stay, but the movement's already going. So it's gonna crack right beside it, you know what I mean? So if it's already, yeah, and Steve's gonna run through a slide, I think he has some slides that kind of touch on those aspects as well. There was something I was forgetting that I wanted to mention. I'm a genius. Sorry.
What's the warranty on the topping versus the report?
On the topping, I would have to get with Steve on as far as the how long it would last up, and that we can give you documentation on it.
Okay, that's fine.
We have some of that. And I mean, that is one thing, I'm glad you said that, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to tell you is that we come in and do your driveway, we do a tear out and replace, it's one day. We tear it out in the morning, we put it back in the morning, we're done, and we're out, and we're going down the road. Now, the topping bond is a 3-day process, and you're gonna have to stay off of it a couple more days after that. We recommend people don't drive on your driveway after we pour it anyway, but I just wanna let you know, we will, if you decide that option, we'll be at your house a couple days. It's like more labor intensive. Yes, ma'am.
And in browsing this, and you may already have it in there, I think it's either 1 or 2 days, depending on what's being done, you're not supposed to walk on it?
Well, okay, so if we pour a new driveway for you, you can walk on it that night or the next morning, it's fine. Foot traffic's fine, I wouldn't suggest heels, but the foot traffic's fine. And they say concrete, within 7 days, it'll come up to, Dwayne, what is it, half the PSI?
It's usually 52%.
Okay, so you'll get, within 7 days, if it's 3,000 PSI concrete, you'll get 1,500 out of it within 7 days. And then 28 days, it'll be the full strength. So we tell everybody, give it 4 or 5 days, you can drive on it. Give it a day, you can walk on it. The next morning, you can walk on it, it's not a problem. And if that night, it's not a big deal. But if you walk out when we're still there, you're gonna be stuck.
You know, Leroy, why don't you just, you shared with us quality of the concrete.
Yes, sir.
You know, what some people do and what you do.
Okay.
And that's
Well,
why you have your concrete guy here. I mean, what's the difference? To me, concrete is concrete.
Well, kind of, we've never been one of those kind of companies that would go around and tell you one's bad or one's worse. We think we're the best. That's just who we are. We like to be that way. I can tell you a few of the things that we do that we appreciate or that customers appreciate. And it starts with expansion joints. Like we put expansion up against your house. We put control joints into the concrete. We take the time, when you go through and you start pouring concrete, I could run this whole neighborhood in 2 days if I could just get out there and blow and go. But to do it the right way is not, it takes time. a lot of the driveway that we tore out for him, there was a crack straight up the center, and that's because nobody took the time to say, hey, this thing's, 10, 12 foot wide. Why don't we split it up in sections? And we know that now.
Minimum 8 foot.
Yeah, minimum of 8 foot is what we have to go on, and it's a percentage. It's a calculation of how deep we have to cut it. Some guys are still out there just cutting barely into the concrete, but there's a depth perception, or there's a depth that we have to go into that concrete for how thick it is. 4 inches, a little, shallower than 6 inch, and so on and so forth. You've gotta make sure you hit those minimal marks, or it doesn't matter what you do, it's gonna come out rough.
What is the depth of the concrete on the driveway?
We pour driveways at 4 inches, everything up on your apron, so where you turn in off of the road, that has to be a minimum of 6 inches, has to be. And that's just because you're so much weight transference right off of the road,
You mentioned that there wasn't you'd have to check on the warranty if you just do
The topping.
repair, the topping.
Yes, sir.
What kind of warranty do you provide if you do a full driveway repair, or replacement,
Well,
I should say?
Okay, so we warranty it against, like I said before, it sounds funny, but against theft and fire. But what we do offer is structural repairs up to 2 years that are our problem. If there's something that we've done, it doesn't matter. If you call me 10 years from now and it's something that we made a mistake on, we're coming by to fix it. We have customers that we can attest to that. I'm not gonna lie to anybody and say we don't make mistakes. We make them every day, but we come right back out and fix it. But as far as the concrete itself, there's so many factors that go into it, I can't tell you that. Because if you have a tree sitting right next to your property, or maybe you had a tree and now you have sod over it and I don't know, that root system's still growing, it's gonna tear it up, right? Or your sprinklers, if you don't take care of your sprinkler systems, those are all things that we try to go through with the customer prior to pouring the driveway, so that you guys know. I want you to be informed. Go ahead, Dwayne.
And I was gonna say, Leroy, what on the guarantees and stuff like that, we guarantee your PSI strength.
Yes.
If your driveways are a 2,500 PSI, or if they're a 3,000 PSI, we guarantee the strength, we know it's gonna meet it, and we'll make sure it's gonna meet it. If you have an issue with it, we can always have several minor tests that we can do to show you right on hand. The maximum penetration would be drilling, but we try to stay away from that. Normally, you're never gonna miss your strength, so your concrete will always have that.
It'll come strong. I mean, Preferred, one of the reasons we use Preferred is they're the largest concrete supplier in the state of Florida. So they're the big boys now in the game, and we use them because we can have that kind of weight, we have that kind of trust with them. And we pour a lot. Yes, ma'am.
I had my driveway done a couple of years back.
Okay.
And, I'm one of the last houses where they used to do U-turns
Okay.
because the gate wasn't open.
Yes, ma'am.
And my apron is like really bad in the,
Your apron's cracked?
no, it's not, it's dented.
It's probably sunk down.
Oh,
Sunk
it's sank.
down.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Can
it's
that be
sank.
repaired?
Okay. So-
Weight transfer.
Well, yes and no. We could put a topping bond on it, but I would say to replace just the apron section.
No, I'm saying,
Yes,
replace.
we could replace just that apron, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
would have to come out and see it and make sure, that's another thing for your sprinkler lines and stuff. Guys, if your sprinklers run all the time and you pay attention to them and you don't see one, find out where it's at, cause it will eat you up.
Another thing with that, Leroy, when you're replacing just one section at a time, you will see a color difference.
Yeah, your concrete, I'm glad you said that. So your driveway, if you got
Kinda
it,
yellowish.
your driveway's yellow now, that's probably just
Oh, it's
stained
not
from the
yellow,
water.
no.
But you're gonna get,
They poured it down, I think it was the last part of the drum,
yes ma'am.
and there was a little rust in there,
Mhm.
so it looks a little brownish,
Now?
yeah.
You have
What-
iron in your water?
You have my number, or my card's up here, just give me a
No,
call.
I
and
don't
can
have
come.
your number.
No, but my card's up here, just give me a call and I'll come by and
Come
look
by,
at
take a
it.
look. I'll come by with them.
Yeah.
Well, he's right across, my son is right
The concrete
across.
that they use for some reason, it's nice, but it always had like a
A
gray.
little bit of a tint to it.
Yeah, a little bit of it's very, some areas is lighter, some areas is darker, but it has like a gray tint.
It could have been the fly ash that they used, or maybe they didn't.
They didn't.
Vinegar is a good fix for that too. If you take vinegar
Yeah,
in a
I-
spray bottle,
I think it's been too long.
Yeah.
It's almost like.
we'll be happy to come out and take a
Look,
look at
it's
it.
in the
Thank you.
concrete, it's weird.
Yeah.
Another thing, Leroy, as well, we are in part of a fly ash shortage. So sometimes we use fly ash, sometimes we use slag.
Yeah.
Some of you guys, I don't know if you've ever had a driveway poured recently, but if you ever see that bluish greenish color in your concrete,
It's like a green hue on the top
that
of the
is the
concrete.
slag.
Yeah.
But it will transfer and turn green.
We
in
spray,
time as
when,
it cures.
when we have that, when they're using slag, we spray them with vinegar because it eliminates it. But, you know, recently, so that's something that we're just getting into too, because it, you know, it was just been an issue. Fly ash is now becoming a problem. So, does anybody have any other questions before yes?
I want to talk about trees.
Okay,
I had a very large oak tree I cut down a couple of years ago.
okay,
And I could see where the root system got underneath the driveway and cracked it pretty severely.
yes, sir.
And something you just said just now just kind of struck me. You said that that root system could still be growing?
Well, it depends on the tree, right? If you don't kill the tree, then it's not like it's gonna branch out and continue to crack up, but you really need to remove, when you pull that driveway, you gotta get all those roots out.
Is that something
So-
that you guys do?
Yeah, what we do, one of the processes that we do when we come, we just did one recently in Hudson, Florida, in Beacon Woods. The lady's driveway was just demolished by a big tree. So we come back in, we cut it out, and depending on how close the tree is, I have an arborist friend of mine that will come out and assess the tree. But we try to maintain, if the tree's still there, we try to maintain that we can keep the tree. So we'll come out, cut out the root system, and trim back the root system, and then apply a product that he has that will stop it. My grandfather used to paint them. He used to cut limbs off of orange trees and stuff and paint them. It's a little different than that, but it's the same
Yeah,
principle,
my
right?
tree is gone. I just want the roots out. of it.
Yeah, well, we'll take those out of our product before we put it back in the ground for sure. Yes, sir.
What's to say,
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
what's to say that the tree's not gonna have other roots come down and go back to where, even though you cut that root, then it's like, when you take out a vein in your leg, what happens? Another vein grows.
No, and I understand that. Well, it's like telling you it's not gonna rain today. I can't do it. But
Basically, if I have a big tree that
Yes,
belongs to
ma'am.
my neighbor, and my
Yes, ma'am.
driveway is going,
yes, ma'am.
okay, so until they take down that tree, how do I fix my driveway?
Well, like I said, what we do is we come back and cut. If the tree's not on your property,
No.
okay, so we can come up, we can take up to your property line. We come back into a safe distance. We usually stay, you know, without tearing the yard up too much. That's the other thing, is you don't wanna have to replace a whole truck full of sod over it. But we come back and take the root structure out away from the driveway. All we can do is what is gonna affect our product, but I mean, maybe get with your neighbor and talk with them about that,
Take
you
the
know.
tree out.
Okay. Well, and that's what I mean, we can do all the
Roots keep
preventative.
growing back?
No, ma'am, and if they do, I wouldn't be here to see it, you know what I mean? Like, to be honest with you, the way that we cut them out, I'm not gonna be around to
Neither
tell
will
you.
you, Susan.
Yeah, I'm just not.
Nice, nice.
It took 30 years to get it to the point it is now.
Yeah, and that's the thing, there's there's overkill in anything that you do, and that's one of the things that people have to stop and think about too. If it took 30 years to get to that point, I'll promise you, I won't notice it in 30 years from now.
That's something you might wanna get the
All right.
arborist.
Then
Yeah.
Also, do you also do, like, we have a walkway, do you also do the
Yes,
walkways?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll do
Because
any
the
concrete
root
surface
system
that you
has
have.
Lifted my walkway also.
Yes, ma'am. So and that was part of it too. We're gonna come out, if so somebody gives us a call, sets up estimates, you'll call my wife, she'll set up all the estimates on when we do those, cause we do them certain days of the week.
And my last question is.
Yes, ma'am.
So the $4,000, is the 25% reflected in that?
Yes, ma'am. That's
The
it.
4,000 is with the 25%?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you said 25%, so I'm going, well, it says.
Ramon, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I just had a comment, my driveway was very ugly, uglier than that, which you have, had spaces maybe 5 feet apart, it was really bad. And I'm very pleased, they came in early, did it all in one day, did a great job, I was surprised, and I'm very pleased, so.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate that. We do. And we, honestly, guys, I can tell you anything that you want to hear, but the truth of the matter is we care about the way things come out. Like I said before, I'm not going to tell you we're not going to mess up. We'll try like heck not to, but I'm not going to tell you we won't. We will stand behind it. It does not matter. One of our biggest things is I can come in, if everybody in this room decided to do a driveway, I could come in 1 week and do every one of them. A lot of guys are 2, 3, 4, 5 days. It doesn't matter. We don't structure ourselves like that. We are not there to live at your house. We are there to get your job done, do the best job that we can, and get out of your hair so you can go back to living. That's the biggest problem with construction right now, is that everything takes a month, and it's stupid. I don't understand it. So, yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the board.
Yes, ma'am.
As we know from past experiences, most of our homeowners want everything to look nice, and they go ahead and they do it, and they take care of what needs to be done. There are always a few that don't, and usually the ones that don't are the ones that look the worst. Does the board plan to send letters with a date for those for those driveways that are really nice?
Well, obviously, I can't force you to, or nor the board, you know. What we've done here is we're offering an opportunity to the homeowners to save a significant amount of money. There's several people in the community have told me they've gotten estimates for a new driveway for $5,400, $5,600. He's talking $4,000. That's a hell of a deal. So I've gotten probably 13 people that have raised their hand and said to me, hey, Bill, I'm interested, you know, without even knowing what the pricing was. So, you know, we've sent a mailer out. We've posted the information on the website. We've sent emails to people that are snowbirds. We're gonna have a drop dead date of June 14th, you know, for people to say, I'm interested or I'm not interested, because that's when the deal ends. Because he's got a plan and he wants to start the beginning of July. So Cyril, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, once again, I can't force that.
Well, we have in other things, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, no, but I think, you know, based on what he's offering, the pricing, and then people that need some financing, I think that the bank is willing to offer some kind of financing to them. I mean, it's a hell of a deal. I mean, it's a hell of a deal. And then, you know, people that have a problem with trees, there's a couple of people that told me I got a problem with trees. Well, you know, he's talked to me about what he does, right? You know, I mean, he's not gonna guarantee it for 30 years, but I think it's a process that he is putting in place to save the tree. So, you know, I mean, I think we have a pretty good opportunity for people that are interested. I mean, if you look, and we're gonna talk about the coating business, but I'll tell you quite honestly, I mean, the coating thing is 3 days, and it's $2,300. $1,700 more, you get a whole new driveway. I mean, hello. So, anyway, it's up to each individual to make that decision. And for those people that have, you know, things like Mary, or you have some cracks or what have you, I mean, Leroy will come out and say, yeah, I can do it or I can't do it. And that's kind of once again, it's just an opportunity, you know, for the community, you know, to save some money and get a quality job. So what do you want to do next?
I would like to introduce you guys to Steve from Euclid Chemicals. For the people that are interested in the topping bond, he's the kind of the go-to guru for it. So,
Do I really have to use this?
No.
Good, no? All right, I'm pretty loud anyhow. At least that's what my wife says. So I would like to start by saying my name is Steve Butler. I'm the technical sales representative for the western coast of Florida. I work for the chemical company that actually manufactures cement products for the construction concrete industry. I do concrete masonry. We have everything from all the chemicals for sealers to the concrete additives to the, you name it, to all the toppings, to all the structural repairs. When the Skyway Bridge is falling down, as it is right now, they call people like myself and I tell them how to fix it. So the neat part, I would like to say for $2,300 you can get a topping, for $4,000 you can get new concrete. What a great savings to do toppings, because I don't do the concrete. So I will say, what an awesome opportunity for you.
Alrighty now.
My counterpart will disagree with me because he likes to sell concrete in the truck.
I would disagree with him too.
I will be the first one to tell you. Done some work with Leroy. The one thing that I like, I'm the guy that likes to fix problems. I am the problem solver. He is very interested in learning how to solve those problems as well. So when I come up with new ideas or I come up with different products, I'll always call him up and say, here's some new stuff, try it out, let me know what you think. And or he says, I've got a problem, I've got a seawall that I need to fix, what do I do? Oh, this is what you do. And I'll give some samples and let him play with it and let him learn how to do it before he goes out and tries to sell a job, if you will. So this is what we're going to talk about. I hope I'm not too boring. If anybody goes to sleep, I'm okay with that. But I'll briefly talk about cracks. And cracks are not real fancy. Once again, I deal with cracks all the time. And by the way, I will tell you that these are some mild structural cracks in this concrete that have been re-epoxied back together. So now it is once again whole. There's zero cracking where all those cracks were. If you notice, nothing telegraphed off of that. I know that for a fact because that's a part of my driveway. So one of the luxuries to being in my position, I get to play with stuff. So what better place to play with products than at your own house? So my wife always says, can't you fix this? Well, yes, of course I can. Well, why don't you? Because I don't really want to. That's the gist of it. We've been married almost 22 years, and she still keeps me around, and I'm, fairly easy to deal with. So I will tell you, after knowing what I was coming for, I put this presentation together in hopes that it kind of fit your mold. I hope it works okay, because this is like the first time I've done this one. I took a couple different ones and combined them together. So knowing that we were going to talk about toppings, and I'll at least, if anybody's interested, I've got some samples. Does anybody want to see it? Here, you want to pass them around? Pass them around. I think I brought 25 of them, so I have plenty. No. There's 4 right there. Any more? There's some more. Take all of them. Also have some literature. Some people like paper, some people don't. I didn't bring a whole lot of them, but this will give you an idea. What I'm trying to show you guys is that about, I would say about 14 years ago, it became very common that contractors would go out, pour driveways, especially driveways and sidewalks, exterior concrete, and I know we're in Florida, all of a sudden you get 3 o'clock rain. And dump on it, and you would end up with pitting, you would end up with, real rough areas of concrete, and or the top of that concrete, like what Leroy was saying earlier. Concrete's a big rock. It's also a hard sponge. So it's going to move just like a sponge does. The sponge in your sink, if it's dry, it's all shriveled up, right? And when it gets wet, it builds back out. Concrete is the exact same thing. It's a hard sponge, so it's going to be moving all the time. What we learned umpteen years ago was that you can take cementitious-based toppings by adding a lot of polymer, a lot of, as we like to call it, juice, a lot of extra products. You can mix those two together, and you can create a nice blend that is very workable, and it has tremendous bond strength because concrete likes to stick to itself. Now, as you can see, my driveway is a little dark. It's got some mildew on it. That's what it is. And that's the reason why I have these kind of pictures. When you have mildew, it's creating, it's basically a sheet in between the two. So if you put a bond on top of that, it doesn't really have anything to bite or stick to. You have to make sure that that substrate is clean as you can. And once again, when concrete is wet, it opens up. When it opens up, it makes those pores open and allows another cementitious topping to be able to dig in and grab to it. Does that make sense? So when you start thinking about it, it's not as technical and fancy as I hope it would be. So here, let's just walk through a couple of these things real quick. What did I just do? Just push the button. Okay, so real simple. Concrete cracks, but are they all the same? No, there are multiple different kinds of cracks. So as you can tell, we've got a couple different things, what causes them, and how do you repair them. That's really the gist of it. So does anybody see stuff like that? Look pretty common? That's called mat cracks or crazing. So it's basically the same thing as this right here. If you can see right here, this is concrete where it started to dry up. And it's just basically shrinking, it's plastic shrinking. and you'll get these little cracks on top. Well, those cracks don't go all the way through. They may only go down about 1/16 of an inch, and it's not a structural crack. Does it look ugly? Yeah, looks ugly. But that's from shrinking. That's because there's a couple of different variables that come into play, like we're about to say. See here. If you look right here, you know, what causes it? Okay, so caused by water evaporating from concrete surface too rapidly during a pour. So let's think about this right here. High ambient temperatures and high concrete temperatures. Do you think in Florida we have high ambient temperatures? Of course, right? Here's a good one. This will also do it. Low humidity. Yeah, I doubt that. That's not really us. Every once in a while, but not very rare.
Not in a while.
Nope. High winds. People don't think about it, but wind is driving through here a lot, especially during the winter. When you think of heat, you automatically think of the summer or the hot times of the year. Well, concrete is hot. Concrete is baking inside. That's what's making it get hard. You have water inside that concrete. When that cement starts to build and starts to gain strength, it's sucking the water out, and that is creating hydration, which is making it hard. That's what makes it get tight. Well, higher winds during the winter, as the wind's blowing through, it will actually dry concrete out right on the top. And keep in mind, we're talking about the top, just the top. So as it's going across, it's just drying that top out, and what does it do? It shrinks. And that's why you get these shrinkage cracks. So now this is inside of a warehouse, but I showed you this, I'm going to show you this for a reason. You see over on the left how you've got saw cut, and it looks like a T, right? Look at that. There's a big cut right on top. That's because they should have put another saw cut there. And that's why it cracked right there. It is going to go to the path of least resistance all the time, every time. And just on the bottom right here, you'll see the same thing. Usual mid-panel cracking. So they had a panel that they poured, and they cut, and they didn't cut anything in the middle to pull that weight, and that's why it cut. And if you notice, it just follows right along. You'll see a pattern. It's really amazing when you look at a big warehouse. You know, if you go to, does anybody go to Sam's Club? Walk around Sam's Club. My wife and my kid, I have a 14-year-old, they laugh at me because I look at floors. I'm like, who looks at floors? Well, I look at floors. You know, I look at the ground. But most people don't really take in consideration, especially in driveways, we're talking about driveways, how important what's underneath your feet is. That's probably the most important part. I'm a structural guy. I deal with the structural problems every day. It's all the stuff that you never see. So you don't see any value in it because a driveway is really ugly. There's nothing, you have to have it, but it's not pretty. It's not like you can do anything with it. It's just a driveway. So you automatically devalue it because it's just a driveway until you have roots growing in it and you got a bunch of stuff popping up, and next thing you know, it's a trip hazard because once again, you're not looking down. That happens all the time. So, does that look familiar? Anybody ever see that kind of stuff? Same type thing. What happens here, this is from an incorrect saw cut, just like that, just like the other ones. If you notice up on the right side, you see that saw cut right over there? That saw cut should have been on the corner of the building, but the contractor put it farther up. And that naturally is going to pull from the corner every time. The one on the left, they should have had a saw cut come off of each corner, like this. So if you have a square, for example, right here, if you look right here, you've got a square, right? This is a cutout for a tree. Right here, they have a saw cut here. They got another one way over here. What the heck is that thing doing? It's nothing. This saw cut should have been right here. And then this wouldn't have happened. This crack would have followed that one. And if you ever look, and once again, I do a lot of commercial work. If you look at commercial buildings, when you really start digging into saw cuts, you will see there is a cut, there is a crack at the bottom of that saw cut every single time, because that's where it's supposed to crack. All you're doing is making a crack pretty, because everybody wants to see a straight line. That's really all you're doing by saw cutting concrete. And you're all right. Early entry saw cut is by far the best way to go. You have a window. As soon as you can get on that concrete and it's green, and you can see a guy walking on it, he should be cutting it. Because I would even say it's less than 24 hours in our environment.
Yeah, in ours.
And it will help. It will save it. There's proof to that. We also make admixtures that go inside We work directly with Preferred as well. And we have admixtures that you can put into concrete, and you can make it have less shrinkage to where you could have less crack, less controlled cutting. But I will still tell you, cut the stinking concrete and be safe. You know, it's just wise to do it. So you were talking earlier. That saw cut right there was done too late. Look what happened right next to it. Voila. What is that, about 3 inches off? Probably about 3 inches off. That's what happens when you see that. And if you look far down that picture, that same crack just followed itself all the way through. I wonder why. There's a method to this to concrete's madness. Okay, so this is a magic question. Concrete cracks. We already know it's going to crack. How do you fix the problem when you have a problem? Okay. Repairing cracks. There's a couple different ways to do it. There's actually more than a couple. There's a lot of ways to do it. Leroy may say, just tear it all out and put new stuff in. I would agree. Most of the time, a lot of times, that is probably the best answer. Especially in older concrete. Everything has a life. Everything has a shelf life. So concrete is just like any other product you have. How many times have you guys all painted your houses? I guarantee you painted it at least before 30 years. You know, paint has a life. So does concrete. So does anything. It's going to fall. So we do have issues. We do have products that can fix those issues. One of them, if you have intermittent cracking and it's spread out, you can take, we have a product that we call it, that was made for cracks, called Quick Stitch. And I'll show you a picture in a minute. I have it in green right here. Yuko Quick Stitch it's not an epoxy, it's a hybrid. It's a urethane and an epoxy combined together. What that does, it has tremendous bond strength, and it's extremely thin, very flowable. You can literally pour that in a crack, chase the crack, pour it in, and if it's a cosmetic purpose and you just want to make the crack go away, you can literally take fine sand, broadcast sand into the top of the epoxy when it's wet. Once it starts to dry and it starts to get a tacky build, you can grind the top off, and voila, the crack is gone. Is it perfect? No, nothing's perfect, but it is much better than where the crack was.
It's a good product.
It's a great product. That is a big seller for us. Another one that you can see, okay, so if they're intermittent or spread out, you can use Quick Stitch. It can also be used to lessen the appearance by routing out the top and filling it with sand, like I just said. Or we have another product called Eucalastic 1NS. Now, does anybody know about caulk and silicones, things like that you would put around your windows? Okay. Silicone is great for anything that touches glass. Awesome for anything that touches glass. Outside of that, it's not worth it. Now you have to go to a urethane. It's basically a polyurethane caulk. Bought it, box stores all over the place. There's a bunch of different brands. All of them are bad except for mine. And the Eucalastic 1NS is a one-component non-sag. I put that in there just to show you that we have reasons for certain things. If you have a control joint that's actually moving, where you have a piece of expansion joint material in there, and that is designed to move. That expansion joint material is a ½ an inch thick, and it goes all the way down. That is designed to take that blow. So, it's just like the joints in your knees. If those two bones are hitting, what happens? It starts to break, right? Well, that expansion joint is a cartilage in between those two bones. Well, we have products that you can put over the top of that would then encapsulate it and hide the expansion joint material, and also waterproof it. Water does amazing damage to concrete, to paint, to you name it. It's amazing what water can do. Well, if you can waterproof that and allow the water to beat off the driveway or beat off the house and get away, it doesn't have any way to sit there and absorb in and start to create problems. So that's where the Eucalastic comes in. So Quick Stitch, once again, you can add sand to it, make it more make it a little bit prettier and it'll blend. Then you have the Eucalastic, which is an expansion joint material to work with those moving cracks. Now, all of these things, whether you're going with a topping or whether you're gonna go with new concrete, I will please ask each and every one of you, if you're gonna go new concrete, tell them that you wanna make sure that you've got a joint filler on there. It will help it considerably, and you know what I'm talking about. So that's something that is a must. I would not do construction without it. Basic stuff on the bottom, no big deal. So now we're gonna get into the fancy stuff that you already saw. I forgot this one was in here. Yuko Quick Stitch. Remember I was talking about how you can make it go away? Look how thin it is over on the left. It's like water. You pour it in the crack and it seeps into that crack, and you can lightly grind the top of it and the crack virtually goes away. We do a lot of decorative concrete and colored concrete where you want it to look a crazy different color. This is how you hide those kinds of cracks. So the best way to do any kind of coverage where you're going to try to go over the top of matte cracking, plastic cracking like we're talking about, is by putting a topping on it, just like what they're doing in this picture. So this topping that we're talking about is called Yuko Recover. So it's the name of it goes along with just that. You're recovering something. So makes it a little bit easier to remember. When you're talking about saw cutting, the only true fix for this situation is to rip it out, to rip out the effective areas and re-pour them with the same concrete mix, and then cut the joints properly. Because once again, if you've got to cut it out because it's bad, you might as well put it back in the right way. Saw cutting through the middle, doing it right and allowing that movement as is. Now, a lot of people will say, well, I'll just get some of that epoxy, and that's just like glue for concrete. And oh, and by the way, we make epoxies too, and I'll tell you that it works, yeah, but it's ugly, and it's gonna stay ugly. What makes epoxy work so good is resin. Well, resin is not a friend to ultraviolet light. And any resin, I don't care whose it is, what it is, will break down with ultraviolet light. Has anybody seen what plastic looks like if it stays outside for a long time? Yeah, and then it'll get real brittle and fall apart. It's because of the resin in it. Well, in the epoxy world, resins will turn amber. It'll turn like an ugly yellow color, and you'll see it all over the place. You can't hide it. And it is what it is. That's just nature of the chemistry that goes along with the product. Remember, these cracks need to be able to move. So as you're going to have temperature changes, you need to allow the concrete to move like it needs to move. Keep that in mind. Once again, when epoxy is used, it's not going to look pretty. It's going to turn ugly color, and then you're going to be calling Leroy, and he's going to be calling me, and I'm going to call him back and say, sorry, it's got resin in it, it's going to get ugly. Don't do that. Okay. Yuko Recover. This is the concrete overlay. Now, I will say I have a lot of different kinds of overlays, depending on the situation, depending on whether it is a cosmetic problem or a structural problem. It's like anything else. You deal with those two situations a totally different way. So if you have a structural situation, you need to worry about a product that's going to be stronger, have high strength. We were talking about PSI of what, 3,600 is probably common out of a truck?
2,500 to 3,000.
2,500, 3,000 out of the truck. Okay. I can get you up to 8,500 with no problems. I can get you to 10,500 pounds. 10,500 PSI strength. I can put a topping down that you can drive a semi on in 5 hours. But you don't want to see the bill that goes along with that. It's like anything else. We deal with situations in very nasty caustic environments, and in those environments you have to deal with certain types of products. This one we're talking about is cosmetic. It is here to make us happy and make us like to look down at the floor again. So you will see a little, if you grab any of the literature up here, I kind of stole some of the pictures and some of the stuff and just put it on slides for you. So it's basically the same literature. What you can see here is on the bottom left corner, driveways, garage floors, sidewalks, pool decks. Isn't that pretty much what we're talking about? This hits all those right there at the same time. Introduction, if you want me to read it, I can, but it's pretty boring. Nothing special. I'm a picture guy, by the way. So, once again, a lot of words we don't need to talk about. The description of it, you have it in your hand. This is it. Feel free to take these out. Feel it, touch it, play with it. You feel it? This is a standard broom finish. This is what you're going to get. It's going to give you a non-slip finish. Nice and easy. All of these are cured. Make sure you cure it. Whether you've got new concrete or an overlay, regardless, always, always, always make your contractor cure the concrete. It's going to make the life a whole lot better. And that's where you can see a little bit of shine on there. Okay. Simple little walkway. Concrete repair. It can be done. It's done all the time. These situations right here, a lot of times you'll get those stairs will break off. And when they break off, we have another structural product that you can use to rebuild that piece that's broken off. And then you can go right over the top of it with the resurfacer and resurface the whole thing, and it looks like it's one. Very easy to do. Once again, on the left side is just a close-up version of what that looks like. And on the right side, as you can see, we talked about color earlier. And please tell me if I'm wrong, but every truck, okay, a truck has 10 yards of concrete, plus or minus. Every truck's going to be a different color. You can say all day long you're going to make it, you're going to match it. There is virtually no way to guarantee you're going to have the same shade of gray every single time.
No, but it'll bleach out.
It'll bleach out,
Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
perfect.
No.
Trust me, I have heard people say, well, this one's different than that one. Well, yeah, it's two different trucks.
Yeah.
Usually the same day, it's pretty consistent,
Yeah.
the same batch.
Yeah. You can, what if it's different days? I'm
Different days, we can be different days.
right. And that's what I want to reiterate, that it
No
can
matter
happen.
what,
Yeah.
a different day, it's gonna be a different color.
Okay, thank you.
It's gonna be cured,
Yep.
this is gonna be uncured.
Yep. Yes, sir. It's tiny. It's an eighth of an inch, real thin. So the luxury to this, I was talking about polymers. I was talking about, we'll call it the liquid glue. There's a lot of polymer in this. As a matter of fact, when the chemists up in Cleveland decided to make this product, they sat down and said, one of the chemists said, look, we can add X amount of polymer to this mix, and we do not need to exceed that. And I'm like, okay, great, we're gonna double it. And they doubled it. And they said, let's see what happens. I work for a company that has a whole bunch of mad scientists up in Cleveland, and they like to find things and they try to make it break. And if you look at this, this is, by the way, this is a piece of hardy board, okay? And then it's got a topping on top of it. This is not how thick that topping is. That topping is minuscule on top. It is literally an eighth of an inch. So as you can see when I brought up the color, you can see the differences right here. You have old concrete on the bottom, no telling how old that is. And then you have all the stairs. All those stairs are recovered. And it's a much lighter bleached out color. Now, I will always add, one of the neat parts about this product, like any other cementitious related product, you can stain them. You can make them different colors. The sky's the limit. Not really. No, I know, but just bear with me. For the record, I love gray. I like light gray, and I hate color because anytime I get a call back, it's always about color. I'm like, geez, I wish I'd never said it. But I'm going to show you something. I saw these pictures and I thought this is really cool. Disregard the color.
Yeah.
But if you look here, you can see the broom finish because of the color.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see how one is broomed one way and the other is broomed the other way. All that can be done by how they're going to perform the job. So you can
swirl broom.
you can do different variations, and you can get a little bit different look by just how you broom it. It's really, amazing what you can do. And pardon me.
We have to keep things the same in our neighborhood.
Yes.
So we're going to add color, a lot of color.
That's why
all the same.
That's why everybody should use the same contractor.
It is no color.
Yeah. See, I wasn't trying to sell color, I promise. But, you know, these are some ideas of what it looks like. And you can see how they came in and redid it all and redid the coloring.
Okay, you're done now.
Now, does anybody's driveway look like that?
No, we can't.
It's all brushed? That was just all pitted. That got rained on real bad. So, never. So what I'm gonna show you, these are some guys putting it down. There's a couple different ways you can do it. Get out of the way here so you can see it. So this is them putting a broom finish on it, nice and easy. Is that how you do it, right there?
No, we squeegee.
Yeah, squeegee it. You can squeegee this on. These pictures were actually done up in Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, so it could have been a little bit cooler, a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
But you can see how it's starting to come together. And when it's all done, that section looked like a new driveway. And you can tell you can put a broom finish, you can do all kinds of stuff to it, and it literally looks like new concrete.
Yeah.
That was a couple days on there. And that's it. So, nobody has any questions, right? Yes?
How do you ensure the same thickness throughout?
When you squeegee it, you're gonna put it down with, you use a gauge rake? Or just squeegee it?
Gauge pans on this.
So you got a gauge rake that's gonna run it out, and you're gonna have it at a certain height, and it's pretty consistent. When you squeegee that along, once again, you are putting a topping on that is gonna be so thin that you won't even notice it, but it literally looks brand new. And we do offer a 1-year warranty on the manufacturer. The manufacturer offers a 1-year warranty on the product defect itself. And if he were to call me up and say, I got a problem, I need some help, we're gonna help him. It's not a big deal. So,
Other questions?
yes, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we were coming up on the rainy season in Florida,
Mhm.
and how much are these products and the concrete affected by all the rain that we get, since we're looking at doing all this in June, July, or whatever it is? I mean, how do you pour concrete when, I mean, suppose you're in the
Well, you
middle of
don't,
pouring,
you
what-
don't pour in the rain if you have any sense.
But
Although
what
we've
happens,
been-
well, it's
what's that?
very, you know, in Florida, all of a sudden a storm can blow in.
Yes, ma'am, and that's on us. That's on us as the contractor. I've had to make that call. I've had to make that tear out before, where you say, okay, it's not gonna be any rain today, and then you're drenched, and it's a half hour of the hardest stuff you've ever seen in your life. And us as a contractor, Dwayne's had to be there and hold my head while I cry because we're pulling out concrete.
Well, wouldn't it be better if we did this like in the fall when there isn't as much rain?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, there's no rainy, I mean, there's a heavier rains in storm season in Florida, but it rains just as much in the winter. Trust me, we're out in it, it rains just as much in the winter as it does in the summer. It's just our job as construction workers to plan and do it the right way, which is part of the reason we get in and get out. We don't make what's that?
This week,
Yeah, well, and we don't,
worst case scenario.
a lot, if it comes down to it, we always carry plastic, we cover it up. Once it gets broomed, you can do whatever you want. It can rain all at once, we're good with it. But it's getting it down, getting it done, and moving on, more than anything. But it's another one of those things, and I hate to keep saying it, but I can't tell you it's not going to. I can just tell you we'll do our best to avoid it.
So, I'll at least show up here. This is recovery. This is our,
Got a
yes,
question.
sir. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're talking about olefins or polyolefins and polymers. How chemically friendly is this to the environment? The
Very much
products
so.
that you use?
Once it gets hard, you don't have any problems. There's a lot of polymer in it. It's basically fancy dancy glue. I don't really think we don't have any issues with the environment. It's very hazmat friendly.
Won't make or bleed.
Mhm.
No, it won't.
Yeah, no leaching, no bleeding, no. Nope, you're fine. And the one nice thing about anytime you have a lot of polymer in a product like we're talking about here, you have to use water-based sealers. So there's two different kinds of sealers. You have a solvent-based, meaning that the driver is going to be solvents like xylene. And then you have the other kind that is water-based, where the driver is actually water. It's kind of like the old days of lead-based paint, or now water-based paint. This product, anytime you have polymers, you have to use a water-based cure and sealer, which is also very friendly to the environment because once again, it is mostly driven by water itself. So user friendly, no problem whatsoever. Yeah, I would definitely do that, but
Yeah.
any other questions real quick? No? All right, I'll only show you one thing real quick here. You can see where it's polymer modified. The working time is right there. So your working time is about 30 minutes in 70 degrees. So that means that in 95 degrees, he's got more like 15 minutes.
10.
Yeah, maybe 10. So I would just about bet you when you're gonna get a topping on your driveway, it's gonna be done real early in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
That would probably, if it were my guess, that's when it's gonna happen. Now, there's your final set, 2.5 hours. You're walking on that in 2.5 hours.
Oh, and that's one thing I should have mentioned prior to, setting the concrete, obviously, if we just put the topping bond down, whether it's new concrete or it's a topping bond, the topping bond cures almost instantly. It's set up. But with new concrete, it's like I said with the broom, once we get a broom on it, we're okay. So neither one of these processes is really where it's gonna be an all-day process. I think when we did Mr. Carry-On's driveway, we were out in 4 hours. So you're just done.
Yeah, so you can actually get on this one. I think you said a couple days.
Yeah.
You can drive on this the next day. It's fine. You're gonna have 4,000 psi in 28 days, but you're gonna have 2,000 psi in 2 days. It's strong. And once again, you can walk on it in a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was asked to come here and talk to you guys about putting a topping on it. I completely understand if the right answer is tear it out and start over. If I were you, I'd tear it out and start over too then. Because it's like anything else. I can promise you, you say it's not gonna burn,
Yeah.
and it's gonna get hard. We always like to say concrete's gonna do two things. It's gonna get hard and it's gonna crack. End of story. It's gonna happen. So all you can do is try to minimize that. Now, I will tell you, this product is outstanding on top of a good product. If you put this on top of crappy concrete, you're gonna have a crappy job. It is what it is.
Well, what he means by that, if I'm not stepping in, is structural cracks,
Structural.
lifting,
Structural.
stuff like that. Now, if you have crazing and mapping cracks and wind cracks and smaller ones like he was mentioning the first time, that's something, and that's where we're gonna need you guys to let us know by June 14th, because that way we can come out and assess it. That's what we're assessing. If we come out and there's lifting and there's deep pitted cracks or deep pits in the driveway, I'm just not gonna put the product down, because it's not gonna look good. So
This helps a look for concrete that's not moving.
yeah.
And if concrete is moving, a crack that is in concrete that is moving is going to telegraph directly through this. It is what it is. And that's when I say this isn't the right product. Now, if you have structural issues that you want to get repaired and you don't want to tear it all out, I can stay up here all night and tell you about those. I got piles of them. Very boring.
Well, is there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Quoted the price of $23.80, does that reflect the 25% discount as compared to just doing one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And another gentleman asked, as far as the ceiling goes, $23.80, is that included in the ceiling? Yes, it does. So that's part of the price.
So the 4,000 includes the ceiling?
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
ceiling
if you guys have, if we have some stuff up here from Wells Fargo. We couldn't get a bank rep. I guess they're not allowed to come and talk to you guys. But they said they would love to have you come down and talk to them at the branch. They offer, two things they offer is a personal loan and a credit card. We accept credit cards. But they offer both of them and they're good rates. We have
Interest-free?
customers. Yeah, she actually did.
The credit cards are usually interest-free.
Yeah, I actually think she said on both they are,
On
depending
both?
on credit.
Okay.
And it's like
Right.
the personal loan is like the interest-free personal loan is like a 1-year loan or for it to be interest-free.
Right, so it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, no, it is, and I'll leave these up here for them. Does anybody have any other questions before we go?
And normally they'll give you either 12 or 18
Yes,
months
yes.
interest-free.
Can I have
Pay it off.
Yes, ma'am.
Now,
Thank you, sir.
I have a handful of my cards up here. I don't sell anything to the public, so you can't call me and say I want a better deal. I can't help you there. But I love answering questions. You're more than happy to call me. I'll help anyway. Yes, ma'am.
So if I'm on the fence and I don't know which way to go, will someone come out and say to me, here's why we think we should do X?
Yes, absolutely. Either if I'm in the area, now keep in mind, I go all the way down to Naples, and I go all the way over to the other side of Polk County. But if I'm up here, I'll even come tell you.
How come you don't give calls?
Pardon me? No, I'm originally from Miami, believe it or not. Can't you tell by my accent? No, it's, I grew up in Plant City, Florida, so I am the native Floridian.
Oh, okay.
The one.
Oh, you're the one.
Yeah, I'm it, that's me. Well, my wife too. My wife actually,
Dave?
was, she grew up a mile and a half away from where we live.
Leroy, we have a question.
Yes, sir.
Initially, when Walt or Bill, one of the two of them was making their introductory comments, they commented on that they had received calls from 15 or so folks that are interested in something like this. Let's assume that 15 people here or word out here say move forward with this and they want their driveways replaced.
Yes, sir.
How long would it take to do the 15 driveways within our community?
A little over 2 days. If it's 15,
And that,
yeah, probably 2 days, 2.5, maybe
and
3.
that's soup to nuts,
Yeah, that's done.
all done.
Yeah, yeah. We'll do on a good day, we'll do 5 to 7, right? On a bad day, we'll do 4 to 5. It's not, they're 10-yard driveways, pull out and put back.
Bill?
Now, going back, just
Dave?
one real quick question, and then Bill, go ahead. We talked about earlier about pouring the concrete in the morning when the temperature is less than midday when it's 95 degrees, given the time frame we're working at.
Yes, sir.
So, but logistically then?
Yes, sir.
You come in, you take out all of the driveways one day, the next morning you come in? and
No,
you
sir.
pour
We
concrete?
start at 7 in the morning. We knock on your door, tell you it's nice to see you, and we pull your driveway. 7 o'clock in the morning, it's pulled out. By 9 o'clock, it's put back. And then, but the guy that pulls the first one out goes right to the second one. So we start the first driveway with 10 or 12 guys is our plan. We'll start the first driveway with 10 or 12 guys. By the time we get to the 5th one, me and a guy are pouring it out, and we're done and cleaning up and heading home.
Bill?
Bill, question about the process. Do you want us to contact the board that we're interested or contact the contractors?
Well, yeah, let me tell you what I'd like to do is I have a bunch of folks that have contacted me already, said, hey, I'm interested. What I'd like to do is if you have any questions, go directly to Leroy, okay? Leroy's the guy that you're gonna pay and is gonna take care of it. But what I'd like to be able to do is to get a list of folks, all right? My email, everybody knows what my email is, what my phone number is. Because if we get more than, we thought about, perhaps there will be an additional discount available. So I think that's important. The other question that if you have, Eleanor, you believe minimal cracks, so you might be interested in, this coating, this thing.
Yeah, if you're interested in the coating, even if you're just wondering if it's the right product for you, just give me a call. We'll schedule to come out, and I'll tell you,
Yeah,
straight
yes
up.
or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if I don't decide to do this year and I wanna do it next year, how much is it gonna cost me?
$5,400 to tear out your
This is a
driveway.
one-shot
This is a
deal?
one-shot deal, volume
You won't-
Well,
discount.
it's a
You
basic
won't
business
offer it
sense for
again
me.
to
It
the
costs
whole
me a certain
community
amount to.
next year?
I'm sorry.
You wouldn't offer it to the whole community next year?
No, ma'am.
After some people see how wonderful the driveways
Well,
are? Why can't
No,
you
and
do
I'll
this
be
again?
I'll tell you the honest to God truth. If you
Yeah.
get every 6 months, that nice gentleman right back there increases my concrete price. What I paid 6 years ago, you would choke if you realize what we pay
Yeah.
now. And not only that, my cost to wake up is a certain amount of money. It costed me a certain amount of money each year to wake up, obviously. So we have to cover that, and that's kind of our plan. Is when we got together with this, we gave that price because we said, hey,
Yeah, it's
he knew
now.
we'd already talked to people, and he had that many driveways we could do.
Is this
Mary,
include
you
sales
got-
tax?
We don't charge tax.
Okay, so there's no sales tax.
No,
Mary.
ma'am, what you see is what you're
I
getting.
know you only
Mary.
collect sales tax, but there's.
Yes, ma'am. We pull that out of pocket, but
Mary.
unless you wanna give it to
Yes, darling.
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to know, when will you be around to assess these things for the people who
Get the
are
call.
interested?
You have my
Call.
card, just
You got
give
the
me a
business
call,
card,
and
call.
I'll set
Yeah,
up a
but,
time.
Mayor,
I'm gonna call you and you're gonna come out for one person?
Yeah, that's, well, my wife tells me where to go, so yes, ma'am. If it's 1 or it's 20, we like to work, so we're gonna go.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
gonna be calling you.
That'd be great. We'd love to hear from
Because I
you.
want you to assess that apron.
Right.
Okay, yeah, for sure. We don't
So-
mind that at all.
Once again, I wanna thank Leroy
Guys,
Day.
thank you for your time.
Mrs. Leroy to come.
Nice to meet
And,
you.
thank you very much. If you don't wanna stay for the rest of the meeting, or if you have some questions for Leroy,